If you feel that deep down you have a lot of potential and you could achieve great things, but you often just end up getting distracted with social media, video games, going out partying, or whatever habit you have that you don't like, and you see that weeks are going by, months are going by, and you're not making as much progress as you know you could, and you've tried all sorts of different remedies and solutions, but nothing seems to work. In this video, I'm going to show you the most simple yet brutal thing you can do to break these endless patterns of highs and lows, and how to get to the level of performance that deep down you know that you are capable of, so you can achieve whatever goal you have as fast as possible and finally beat all of these distractions. This might be one of the most important videos I have ever made, and I wish I had learned what I'm about to share with you in this video years ago, because it would have made my life so much better. So I'm just gonna get straight to the point. It's gonna sound very extreme, but it is what it is. The mistake that I've done for years, and most people do when they're struggling with the productivity issue, is that they do not cut out 100% of their distractions. And when I say 100%, I really mean 100%. What you cannot do, because it doesn't work long term, and this is what most people do, is to either just cut out the major bad habits that you have, but you keep the minor ones. That doesn't work, because eventually the minor bad habit that you had ends up becoming the major bad habit. For example, this happened to me when I was a teenager and I wanted to quit video games. That was my major bad habit that I wanted to get rid of. That's what was consuming most of my time. So I set this rule of no more video games. I uninstalled everything, I deleted everything. But then turns out that I had no rule for social media, which was my minor bad habit. So what ended up happening is that all the time that I was previously spending on video games, now I started to spend that time on social media. And in fact, what I started doing is just to spend all those hours just watching videos of other people playing video games. So the minor thing became the major thing again, and nothing really changed. And this can happen with all sorts of bad habits or addictions that you want to get rid of. It can happen with junk food, it can happen with porn or social media, like whatever, there's infinite examples. But then what most people do after they face this problem is that they come up with a new plan. What you now try is to schedule your distractions. You make up rules like, oh, maybe I'm just gonna check social media after 6 p.m. Or maybe I'm just gonna play video games on the weekends. But this only works for a short period of time, because then you get to the weekend and you fully indulge in all of these habits that you're trying to control, whether it's video games, social media, whatever. And then when Monday comes around, it's gonna be really difficult to focus on your task and your goals and your work, because your brain, by contrast, just comes from being super overstimulated from all the things that it did on the weekend. And now it's gonna be really hard and boring to sit down and do all of the hard things that you're supposed to do. And then usually what ends up happening to all of us is that someday you will break. You will allow yourself to indulge in these bad habits that you were trying to control, but when you're not supposed to. And now you just really messed up, because now your brain knows that it can justify its way out of your schedule. So it's extremely likely that you will mess up again and again and again and again. And eventually you'll just give up on the whole thing and be back right here on square one. In fact, I would say that going through this process might be even worse than going back to square one, because now you might even feel a little bit hopeless about the whole situation. Now, what both of these bad solutions have in common is that they make the domino effect possible, but in a negative way, because since they allow you and they're set up in a way that you can indulge in these bad habits sometimes, as we were saying, like, oh, maybe at 6 p.m. or on the weekends. What happens is that each time that you do so, you are reinforcing those bad habits. And over time, the cravings are stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And eventually you get to a point that you cannot resist it anymore. You break your own rules and everything falls apart. Now, the reason why this happens is because of homeostasis, which is the process by which our bodies maintain like an internal balance despite of external changes in our environment. So, for example, if it's really cold outside, in order to preserve that internal temperature in your body is going to shiver, your metabolism might increase, your body can burn brown fat. And on the flip side, when it's really hot outside, your body is going to sweat, your metabolism might slow down, etc., etc. But here's the thing, there's another way in which homeostasis can happen, and that is through tolerance. For example, someone who never drinks can easily get drunk with one single beer, while someone who often drinks a lot ends up building a tolerance. And now they need a lot of alcohol to get drunk. And the exact same thing happens with dopamine. Someone who engages all the time with very stimulating activities like social media, video games, porn, whatever, these will cause their brain to downregulate their dopamine receptors. So now high levels of dopamine become the new normal, and they have developed a dopamine tolerance. And now normal activities that just produce normal levels of dopamine will not be enough. to make them interested, which then makes it incredibly difficult to work on your business or read a book, working out, or whatever difficult thing you're trying to achieve. And that's why the domino effect that I was explaining before happens, and it's so dangerous. Because then when the weekend comes or 6 p.m. or whatever, and you allow yourself to indulge in that bad habit that you're trying to control, what you're doing is building up that tolerance. You're getting used to it. And each time you're gonna need more and more and more and more, which then is gonna make it really difficult for you to focus on these hard, boring, low stimulating things. And then it's very likely that you will just end up breaking your routine, schedules, and all of that. And that's why I'm offering you this possible solution that if you're really struggling with focus and you are in a season in your life right now that demands a lot from you and you need to be at your absolute best, try to cut it all out. Like 100%. Get rid of social media, throw away all your junk food, delete all your video games, stop going to nightclubs or whatever it is that you're doing. All of these things that you have in your life that could possibly distract you, cut it all out. Because then what's going to happen is that instead of having a dopamine tolerance, what you are going to develop is a dopamine sensitivity. So work will become as fun as playing video games, and reading will be as fun as scrolling through social media or watching videos. I know it's hard to believe, but I can attest to this from first-hand experience. In fact, this is even better because you will have the same amount of fun, plus you will have fulfillment. Fulfillment is not something that you get out of bad habits like social media. And one thing that I would recommend you to do if you want to attempt this thing is that instead of thinking about what you cannot do, think about what you can do. Don't make a list of the things that you're not allowed to do. Make a list of the things that you can do. So for example, my list looks something like this. I can work on my business. I can read books. I can work out. I can visit friends and family on the weekends. I can go for walks. I can meditate. I can watch educational videos while I'm having lunch or dinner. And I can use my phone to reply to text messages. And that's about it, honestly. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but that's about it. I can only do things within this list. If it's not here, I just cannot do it. And having this approach is way better because then it becomes really obvious when you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. I would say the first day is the one that's going to be the most difficult. In fact, the most difficult day is going to be the day that you actually decide to do it. So day 0 is the most difficult. Then the first day is kind of tricky. But then by the time you get on the 3rd and 4th day, you're just going to feel amazing. And one thing that you might realize is that life is actually way more fun than you imagine. It's way easier to be in a constant state of bliss. Your negative thoughts will go down. You will be able to be more present in the moment, more joyful, more at peace. And obviously it's going to be incredibly easy to be focused. And this is really going to supercharge your productivity. Because if you think about the list, the thing that you will end up doing the most is just working, which is probably what you need to do. You're not going to be going for walks for like 16 hours a day, trust me. And whenever I don't feel like working because I'm exhausted, because it will happen, usually what I default to is just reading. I feel like people who don't enjoy reading is because they spend too much time on social media, video games, or any of these things that overstimulate you. But if you do this, like honestly, you will see how freaking fun it is to read. If you need recommendations, one of the small things that I offer in my private community is this thing right here of my top 100 recommended books. Right here you can see the top 8. So if you don't know what to read, here's a few decent recommendations. But if you're wondering like, okay, Pau, I get it, but when am I going to actually relax? Look, I feel like the only real way to relax and rest are either socializing. So for example, I don't know, if you're married or you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, I would say at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is just to hang out with them and spend time with your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Then the second only real way to relax is to sleep. And the third one is to do nothing, which I would say basically boils down to either meditating or walking, okay? But with no music, no podcast, no nothing. But this is about it. Like relaxing with social media or video games or whatever, like it's not as effective as most people think. I'm not gonna get into it in this video because I've already talked about this in some of my other videos, but they're not a proper way of relaxing. Yes, you relax a little bit, but it's not optimal. Like these ones right here that I'm presenting, like on a scale from 1 to 10, I would say like they're either a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Social media, video games, whatever, I don't know, maybe it's like 2 or 3 out of 10. Like for sure, they relax you a little bit, but it's such a horrible way to do it. Now, I know some people might be thinking that this sounds pretty extreme and that maybe it sounds boring, but that's because you're seeing it from the perspective of still being hooked to all of these things, to all of these super stimulating habits and addictions. What happens is that you're suffering from a little bit of tolerance. So the idea of abstaining from those activities just sounds ridiculous to you. But here's the thing. try it for a week and see what happens, right? Like, don't have an opinion. I feel like this is the problem with a lot of people. They have opinions on things that they haven't tried. Don't be so certain. Try it for a week, this whole thing that I'm presenting, have an experience, and then you will know from firsthand if this actually works or not for you. But do it right, okay? You cannot do this because otherwise this is not gonna work. Like, there's a reason why I'm saying 100%. So go make your own list and try it and see what happens. Now, obviously, you don't have to do this forever. But again, like, if you're in a period in your life that you really need to focus and there's some things that you really want to get done, I think this is it for you. I feel like one funny thing that might happen is that you might not want to do it because deep down, you know this might actually work. And you're gonna have to quit for real all of these bad habits that you have. You know, recently, out of pure curiosity, I read this book by Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking, because I read somewhere that it was one of the most highly rated self-help books of all time or something like that. So I was sure that there was something that I could learn out of it, even though I have never smoked a single cigarette in my entire life. And one thing that the book claims is that if you read it from beginning to end, there's a 100% chance that you're gonna quit smoking. And there are countless reviews that back up this claim. And I read one interesting story from a woman that explained that she started to read the book, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through, she stopped. And then she continued to smoke for like 1 or 2 years more. But eventually, she came to her senses, she picked up the book again, she finished it, and that's when she completely quit smoking. And what she explained is that the reason why she had stopped reading the book halfway through is because at some point, her subconscious realized that this was actually going to work. And that once she finished, she knew that she would have to quit smoking. So her subconscious sabotaged her or convinced her to not finish the book. So I want you to consider if the same thing is true for you with this thing that I'm presenting right here. Maybe your subconscious or some part of your brain is afraid that this thing might actually work, that this is basically it. This is the answer. This is the ugly truth that deep down you know, but you don't want to accept. But it's only ugly because you're sitting on the other side of addictions, distractions, and bad habits. But once you come to the other side, as that woman did, you realize how beautiful it is to be over here. So don't do the mistake that I've done for years, because I actually knew about this a long time ago, but it took me a long time to accept it and implement it and put it into action, just like it happened to that woman. And I don't want you to just watch years of your life be thrown away just by stupid, silly distractions. I think most people have way more potential than what they realize, but there's like these simple things that are preventing people from getting into the right gear and unlocking their full potential and achieving all of these things that they want. So do it. Okay, don't hesitate on this. And as I've said in some of my other videos, like the difference between educational content and entertainment content is whether you do something with the things that you're learning or not. So if you watch this whole video, but you don't apply anything, this was just entertainment for you. If there's no change in behavior, there is no learning. So if you value yourself, do it. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe, because I post videos like this very often, and go watch some of my other videos. I am sure you're going to like them as well. And that's about it. I'll see you very soon. Take care. Have a great life. Peace.